You've heard in a number of the presentations this morning as to why people come to North Simcoe, and quality of life, I guess, resonates so strongly there. I came to this area 2001, and first of all, after getting settled, got involved in the political process. And coming from a business background, as soon as I got into politics, I'll be honest with you, I realized that this area was in trouble. Our economy was not going in the right direction. And all good economists, all good business people ask forward-looking questions like, where is this headed? And the question for the community, the question for the economy is, where are the jobs of the future coming from? Because they're not there now. So this started a long discussion, and you've heard there was a term HEA used, that was the predecessor organization. There was actually an organization before that that led to the HEA, and that brought in private sector individuals, and we had some of those meetings that I did attend or not attend. But this healthcare thought kept turning up and up again. If you look around just very broadly, just to open up the yellow pages if they still exist, you'll see all sorts of healthcare organizations. So we seem to have our fair share of that. We have our fair share of healthcare professionals. If you look at a quick stat from the Ontario government, we have about 4.2% of our population engaged in healthcare, which is above the Ontario average. So that's on the supply side. On the demand side, and you heard that mentioned earlier, that as we age, we tend to consume a lot more healthcare. And again, in a positive sense, if we have a lot of consumers, and North Simcoe's got about 22% of its population over 65, that was as of 2011, we've got quite a consumption base out there. So opportunity, maybe. And then you put on top of that, of course, just the environment, Georgian Bay. You have your choice of living in a dense urban environment. I won't speak ill of anyone's particular urban area, but living on the shores of Georgian Bay in and of themselves is a healthy experience. So you put that together and it starts to percolate that, maybe we're onto something here. Maybe we should start focusing in the area of healthcare. And that's what sort of led myself in particular. I know a number of others, and I out talking to lots of folks, and I thank people for the many discussions we've had on healthcare, said, we've got to spend some time, we've got to spend some energy, because this is our future. So you have the next slide. So as I said, as you start to get serious about this, you do the typical environmental scan. And the thing that astounds you is just the breadth and wealth of healthcare asset and people that we have in the North Simcoe area. And I'm going to just go down this list, and if I miss anybody, I apologize. But you look at Waypoint, and I'll use the word world class. I don't use that too often, but Waypoint is doing things that are world class. The world is coming here, innovative research, innovative practice, and just an expanding business, if I can phrase it like that, because healthcare is obviously more than just a business, but in this case, I look at the business attributes. Georgian Bay General Hospital, and we've got Karen McGrath here, I'm very pleased to see that. We've got a solid community hospital, and I won't beat around the bush. We do have our financial challenges, and this comes back to all sorts of provincial funding arrangements, but we do have that as a core asset. Chigamik, our community health center, doing a lot of also innovative work, especially with First Nations Aboriginal health, and recognized, I think, across the continent of North America, David, if I can say that, for some of the things that are coming out of Chigamik. Community Living Huronia, a lot of us don't think of that as part of the healthcare continuum, but it is. And I know Tony Vipond wasn't able to make it today, but again, I've sat with Tony, we've talked about healthcare. He is writing protocols that are used all over the world for support of individuals who are challenged in mental health and social skills and such. So it's just amazing, if you will, the quality that's out there. Go to long-term care, and we have got 3 major long-term care facilities up here. You already saw a picture of Georgian Village. This is a county facility, and I think it's fair to say that many people are coming up here to see how it is done. It presents 6 different styles of affordable, not all affordable, but a living style for the seniors, some of them affordable, some of them fully supported. And it just brings them together in a campus format that says, this is how it could be. So we're starting to do those pioneering things that are so important to become the center of excellence we seek. Seniors residences, we actually have 8 in our community, everything from the brand new Tiffin House to Bayfield House, Georgian Village also, and Georgian Manor. So just there is so much out there in dealing with the geriatric component, the more senior component of healthcare. Health and wellness businesses, some of the stats that have come out of the Ontario government. There's 284 businesses that have put their hand up that were in the healthcare business. And that doesn't mean a formal, I'm a doctor or I'm a nurse. It may be massage therapy, it may be physio, it may be occupational therapy. all of these disciplines that make us a healthier community. The growth rate for them, the growth rate is 3.6% a year. If you just key on the 4 largest providers, these are the Waypoints, the GBGH, over the last 5 years, they've seen over 200 jobs, new jobs come into those communities, or part of those institutions, the job growth being 9% on that population base. So again, we're seeing an uptick here. And recognize we're talking about an industry that is heavily regulated and controlled by government. We all know government, I'll speak to this in a second, very much into cost control, cost containment, cutbacks, but we're seeing growth, really significant growth in this area. If we look at the broader, the healthcare professionals, there's actually 3,175. I also have people to give you it right down to the last person, but that's the number of healthcare professionals, again, in North Simcoe. And again, that sector saw growth of 9% over the last 5 years. I believe, and I'll stand to be corrected, that is the top sector growth for our area. We saw the mayors. The mayors understand in their heart of hearts, if we do not nail health care, we're in a whole lot of trouble. If we do not have proper healthcare services in our community, it really doesn't matter how well the roads are paved or how well the sewers work, there will not be people here. And especially with an aging population, and I've attended many of these public sessions on healthcare. So the mayors get it, and that's why the mayors are here as a group, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think entirely supportive of what's going on here. And lastly, and I think most significantly, is an engaged public. And I'm sure you've all seen these newsreels, that somebody's doctor is leaving or there's a clinic shutting down and all you get is the protest signs out. We have not gone that route. And especially with the mayor's help again, we've said, let's not just be a protest, stop the, don't do the, whatever. Let's get out and get engaged in what healthcare is. Let's get serious. There's not enough money to go around. We get it. We know things are changing. We get it. So as opposed to just being another pothole in the road, how can the citizens get engaged? And with that, we've had a number of very significant public meetings. The very first one held in the Midland Sports and Rec Center. We had close to 500 people attend. And since that time, it's evolved, and we've got a Citizens Healthcare Steering Committee that's just been established with new public members, and you'll start to see that one take flight this fall. So we're having a whole lot of discussion on healthcare. And as you can see, and I'll sum up what Richard Florida of the Martin Prosperity Institute said, we have a natural cluster here for healthcare. The question is, what are we doing with it? Next slide. Beyond that environmental scan, we also know that the world around us is changing. Healthcare is significantly changing. What we've seen in the media, of course, recently is just the fiscal pressures. The governments are telling us there's no more money, it's frozen, you've got what is in place right now, so don't even think of asking for something new. Also provincial directions, and one of the broadest ones is saying we're going to try to deinstitutionalize individuals. You've heard of home care, moving people out back into the community, moving the services out into the community. And again, I don't want to be critical of our provincial government, but it's been more sort of, this is what we'd like you to do, we don't know how it works, but have a go, see how she's working. Treatment protocols are changing. We understand that health is becoming more holistic. We're getting out of the, and again, I don't want to speak ill of doctors, it's take a pill and see me in the morning. It's now is, what's your lifestyle like? Are you still smoking? Do you get any exercise? Have you really thought of getting some counseling about stress? This is what healthcare is transforming into, is a more holistic kind of view as to how people are healthy in a community, how a community then has a sense of well-being. And of course, technology. If you've looked at some of the modern technologies, especially for palliative care or long-term care, it's amazing how much technology is out there. And to be self-critical, we're not seeing an awful lot of that up in North Simcoe. So as opposed to bemoaning the fate and saying, gee, isn't that bad, I always look at this is a great opportunity. This is something that we can step into with all of the natural assets we just talked about and the gap that's developing and said, let's look at this differently. Let's look at our seniors as an opportunity. And just in terms of opportunity, this is the fastest growing demographic in Canada. And just one stat that's come out of Stats Canada is that the numbers of seniors is growing by 0.5% as a percentage of the population every year till at least 2031. So we're adding, as a nation, over 175,000 seniors every year to the pool. That is not just coming in and going out. That is a net increase. So the whole user base for a lot of our healthcare services is growing. I'd also like to identify mental health that's going through a transformative discussion. And too many times we look at this as, oh, gee, you've got a mental illness. Maybe you should be put in an institution and maybe some psychiatrists can deal with you. I think we're coming to a much healthier understanding of what mental health is. And the stat that's come out of Waypoint is that while 25% of the population has some sort of a mental illness, we all have mental health. And the question that sort of put me back on my heels is said, have you ever been stressed? Have you ever felt anxious? Well, that is part of mental health. And most would say, well, I don't have to talk about that, it's my problem. Well, we're getting open to the point that maybe we should talk to someone about it. If I'm constantly stressed in my job, with my life, maybe I need to engage in this. And this is this whole transformation of mental health. And with that, we're seeing much more private sector entry into this particular area. So the opportunities are out there. It's what we choose to do with them. The first steps, and you've heard comment to this in terms of the hubs. The hubs, I guess it's a very generic term, but it says people getting together to deliver sort of a common service that makes some sense to the user base. That's happening in healthcare too. We've heard about the situation at PGH, and this is where the provinces come in and said, we want you to consolidate. We're only going to pay you for one hospital in your area, so one has got to go. Deal with it. And as I said, the normal recourse to this sort of thing is the politicians get out with the stop the signs, and we have this kind of healthy discussion, and we just suck it up. That didn't happen in this case. And I've got to look to Mayor Marshall in particular, that we said, okay, we've been given a challenge here. We've been given that lemon, if you will, and said, how do we move forward on this? So he aligned the 4 mayors. We were all part of this discussion. The LIN, the GBGH, and said, well, let's take a combined position on this. Let's see how we can work together to make the lemonade. And as you've heard, and we will see very shortly, we're expecting this business case to be cemented and do an effective job of bringing PGH back to life. Similarly, downtown Midland, we're looking at our own hub, and this is going to be with Chigamek Waypoint. It is still in the process of discussion with the town, but I'm very positive that we'll see that. So those are the elements, those are the parts that are coming together, but where is this all headed? And this is the vision I'm holding out, is that we're headed into a healthcare campus, an area of excellence. So it is not just so much a focus on this institution or that institution. It is the fact that we all have common cause in making sure that we have a healthcare direction and one that works. And I'll put it to you, this is not an MOH thing. We all think, oh, healthcare, that's the provincial government. They'll tell us what to do. More and more we're seeing that we've got to be self-directive. And compound that with the fact that, first of all, the public sector, in some senses, especially through finances, is withdrawing in some senses from areas, and the private sector is engaging and delivering a lot of services to people that the public sector is just not going to pay for. So this is the complexity that we've got to deal with. We're going to get this together over the next year, and you'll see this is more aspirational at this point. We know that we need an R&D component. I'm very glad that Kim Feddersen is here, because without some senior research capability, we cannot be effective in building a center of excellence. We need the vision. We have got to be able to say, how does PGH relate to what we're doing in downtown Midland, to all of these clinics, to the healthcare clinics, to the hospital? They all have to be rationalized in some sense as to why this area is good for healthcare. So we're in those early stages. We've got a long way to go, and I'll go to our last slide, this one. And I put this up here just not so much to confuse you, but to show you what the landscape looks like right now. This is supposed to be the value chain. The first thing I find, first of all, just recognize the number of players in there. But the value chain is all how you add value. The ultimate arbiter of that value is the patient. Where's the patient in this one? They're sort of up in the corner, and some people are poking at them. A lot of people are some distance from them. And you say, does this make sense? So this is the challenge. The value is in the value chain. But we have got to substantially take it apart again and ask the fundamental questions. If I want a community of well-being, if I want healthy citizens, what is it that gives them that health? And I think we're now to the stage of being realistic with ourselves. It doesn't mean that you'll have 3 more appointments with a doctor. It means you've changed your lifestyle. It means you've changed your environment. It means you've changed the community around you. And you've got the direction. And you've got the people. that will give you the health care that we need in North Simcoe. Thank you.